I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now would you make welcome, straight from Washington, D.C., the United States Army Corps Quartet.
Yeah.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Oh, yeah!
Come on, everybody. Let them know it. The United States Army Barbershop Quartet performing at the Barbershop Quartet Convention in 2015. And folks, we want to thank them for their service, and also all of our servicemen, men and women around this world, in this country, and everywhere they might be. God bless them. May they return home to their families after their tours of duty end, and also our allied armed forces. God bless all of them. Thank them for their service, ladies and gentlemen. We love them. We appreciate them helping us keep the peace in the world. This is a very tenuous time period we all are living in. We want to thank these men and women for all that they do for us. It's a wonderful thing. It really is. Folks, we have a lot to talk about tonight. I'm sorry for the no sound right after the music at the beginning. Again, YouTube doing it to us. I'm sorry about that. My name is Ron Tyler. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates. We're coming to you from the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. Folks, we got quite a bit to talk about. First thing I want to talk about is Shishalden Volcano, over in the northeast side of the Aleutian Island area. Shishalden Volcano is a conical volcano, almost completely symmetrical. This is a volcano that's very active. It's a very active volcano. Seismic tremors remain very high at this volcano, and nearly continuous small infrasound signals have been detected, suggesting that low-level eruptive activity is likely occurring within the summit crater. Based on previous eruptive episodes, this activity may culminate in a more significant lava fountaining and ash emissions within hours. However, no strongly elevated temperatures indicative of lava at the surface or ash emissions have been accompanied by the elevated geophysical data thus far. The volcano is mostly obscured by clouds right now between 10,000 and 15,000 above sea level, which preclude observations of possible low-level activity. The Alaska Volcanic Observatory is monitoring the volcano very closely and will issue volcanic activity notices as updates at any time to provide notice of significant changes in activity as they occur. Recent significant ash events during the current eruptive activity resulted in ash clouds with heights up to 40,000 feet, 12 kilometers high above sea level. These events can occur with little warning. It is also possible that ash emissions may occur at a lower level, steady state, and be sustained for many hours. Most eruptions are relatively small, although the April to May 1999 event generated an ash column that reached up to 45,000 feet high. An ash column that reached up to 45,000 feet high above sea level. Okay, so this volcano again is active. It's been active for quite some time. We've had some active status where we've seen ash columns upwards of 30,000 to 30,000 to 40,000 feet high. The latest was 39,900 feet high. It's not doing that right now, but we don't know because of the cloud cover in the area. This is a very pending volcano. Okay? A very pending volcano. Almost anything could happen at this point in time. We need to keep an eye on it. We need to keep a very close eye on it. Now, I want to talk about our money. This is a dangerous place we're in right now. It's a very dangerous place we're in right now. We are at a point where our government may shut down by the middle of this weekend. Okay? The digital dollar is now a reality. Let me tell you about it. The Federal Reserve announced they are testing the new digital dollar. They'll be joined by major banks like Citicorp, HSBC, MasterCard, and Wells Fargo. And you should be scared. The digital dollar puts all your money in the hands of the government. They'll be able to know what's in your account at all times and what you buy. Americans are already struggling to afford rent, food, and electricity. Okay? The government, with this digital dollar, would be able to limit what you purchase and the causes that you support. i.e., if you wanted to give money to a politician, they may not let you. Okay? If it's not going to the government's selected person. Not necessarily Mr. B, but to other congressmen and senators or anyone else. If the government doesn't like that person, you're not going to be able to give money to them. They won't let you. Okay? They can also take everything away with the click of a button. Yes, the government can take your money at a click of a button. Democrats can seize control of all bank accounts and transactions. Biden believes that money is spyware, reporting your every purchase, erasing your privacy, stifling any dissent. If you don't get along with them, and they know it, they can stifle you by taking your money away, all with the click of a button. If you don't agree with something the government does, all of a sudden the money you thought you had will no longer be there. If you were to try and buy something that the government thought you didn't need, you wouldn't be able to buy that item. It's no small wonder that the Democrats gave $480 billion to to their IRS enforcers. Remember that? $480 billion to 85,000 new IRS agents. And by the way, those new agents will be packing heat, just so you know. Okay? Just so you know. This is not good. Now, I also wanted to talk about the budget deadline of September 30th. The budget deadline is September 30th. The parties. I bet you all have been wondering who are the parties involved. Number one is Speaker Kevin McCarthy, Speaker of the House. Number two, the person in charge of the United States Senate, the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. Okay? Both the House and the Senate must put forth a budget for the 2023-2024 budget year, or propose a continuing resolution to keep this country afloat for 30 to 60 days, or shut the government down. Meaning, no money. No money. Spending by the government, none. No military member getting paid. No civilian Social Security recipient. No SSDI, no SSI, no money for federal retirements, no money for anybody. Okay? Richard Smith over in Nova Scotia is asking, gold will still hold value. Gold will only hold value if you hold the gold in your hand. If you don't have that gold in your hand, you don't have gold. Okay? Now, Speaker McCarthy gained earlier momentum by passing the limit. Save Grow Act. Okay? The House passed the Limit Save Grow Act in April, which forced President Biden to negotiate over the debt ceiling. Those negotiations resulted in the Fiscal Responsibility Act, a bipartisan bill that passed both chambers, both the House and the Senate, and it was signed by the President in June. Since then, the House of Representatives have slogged along, meaning almost like swimming in a swamp. Okay? Hampered by infighting among Republicans over procedural matters and the size of spending cuts that they're going to accept. Okay? Many senators, and I'm saying quite a few, are saying they're not going to pass any kind of budget act if it includes money for Ukraine. Many House Republicans are also saying the same thing. Okay? So they're going to be arguing over spending cuts by the President of the United States. The President of the United States wants to continue shipping our taxpayer money to Ukraine. The House of Representatives have been fighting many battles this year, including going after the unlawful actions of the President and his family and other Democrats. September 30th is 2 days away. September 30th comes along this time every year. We would have thought that Congress, both the House and the Senate, would realize all of this and realize the budget deadline is every year, and they would know what was happening, and that they would do more to assure the entire country, every citizen, that they would keep the country funded and not shut down. Here we are, September 28th, and we don't have a budget. We don't even have a CR, which is a continuing resolution. A continuing resolution is an agreement by both the House, the Senate, and the President of the United States that they will work to get a balanced budget, or a budget that they can agree upon before the end of the time period of the continued resolution. Yet, we still do not have a budget. We don't even have a balanced budget, and it probably will never happen for at least many years. Many years going forward, possibly never in our lifetime, because we are so many $1 trillion in debt. Our country is trillions and trillions, double-digit trillions in debt. Considering the place where we are now, with the Democrats funding other countries' wars with our taxpayer money, and the president suffering dementia and senility, and his handlers wanting their way regardless of what happens to the country and its citizens. The Senate and the House must come together within the next 2 days, or this country will shut down again. The second time since 1995 under the Clinton administration facing a similar situation. As a result of conflicts between the Democrat President Bill Clinton and the Republican Congress over funding for education, the environment, and the public health in the 1996 federal budget. The United States federal budget shut down November 14th through November 19th, 1995. 15 days. And it shut down again December 16th to January 6th, 1996 for 5 and 21 days respectively. I was a federal police officer. What happened to me? I did not receive a paycheck. That's what's going to happen again if this government shuts down. Mr. McCarthy scored a victory September 26, 2 days ago, by passing a procedural vote in the House to finally allow debate on 4 appropriations bills. The Department of Homeland Security at $91.5 billion, the Department of State for $52.5 billion, the Department of Agriculture, Rural Development, Food and Drug Administration at $25.3 billion, and the Department of Defense at $886.3 billion. Together with the military construction and Veterans Affairs bills already approved by the House, those bills, if passed, would represent about 75% of all federal discretionary spending. However, to take effect, the bills must be passed by the House and then approved by the Senate and then signed by the President, none of which has happened yet. None of which has happened yet. Debate on the agriculture bill began almost immediately after the procedural vote, and it continued into the wee hours of this morning. At 9 a.m., the House of Representatives reconvened to debate on the defense bill, which continued for 6 hours. Kevin McCarthy told reporters today that he expected consideration of those bills to be concluded by September 28th, today, by the end of business today, which could be late tonight, and that he would continue to field a continuing resolution to keep the government open for another month by September 29th, the day before the money runs out. All of that might have produced more leverage if accomplished a week earlier. As it stands, Chuck Schumer, the man on the right-hand side of your screen, Chuck Schumer is poised to seize the initiative. Mr. Schumer's move was to attach stopgap funding provisions to a bill reauthorizing the Federal Aviation Administration. Attaching stopgap funding bill. Okay? To try to keep the country going for at least another 30 days. James Brackett, just thank you for that $5 super chat. You guys, that means so much to me. Thank you so much for your support. James says, I hope this helps. Yes, it does. God bless you for that. Anyway, Mr. Schumer's move here would extend government funding through November 17th at current spending levels, allowing 6 additional weeks to complete the 2024 budget appropriation process. The bill will also add $6.15 billion in funding for Ukraine. That's not going to go over well with a lot of senators saying they will not approve any kind of spending for Ukraine. And another $5.99 billion for disaster relief. The disaster relief portion will get approved. But as for money for Ukraine, I doubt it, both in the House and the Senate. Senator Patty Murray, who's a Democrat from Washington State, she's chair of the Senate Appropriations Committee. She said the bill was meticulously negotiated to gain bipartisan support, and that worked, as 77 senators, including 26 Republicans, voted to keep it moving through the Senate's laborious legislative process. Mr. Schumer has said that the bill will come to the Senate floor today, where he all but guaranteed that it would pass. Representative Pete Aguilar from California, Democrat, chair of the House Democratic Caucus, estimated the measure would get at least 315 votes if brought to the floor in the House. Hurricane Heather just gave us another $5 super chat with love. Thank you, Hurricane Heather. We appreciate that. God bless you for that. Folks, if you don't already know, Hurricane Heather lost a friend of hers, a very close friend of hers, who disappeared, and then they found his body. I believe it was the day before yesterday. Hurricane Heather is a wonderful lady. We were praying for her friend to be found unharmed, but that did not happen. And so we've been praying for Hurricane Heather and her friends ever since. God bless you all. Anyway, Pete Aguilar from California, who's also a Democrat, chair of the House Democratic Caucus, estimated the measure that would get at least 315 votes if brought to the floor in the House. Okay, that would pass it. If the Senate does pass their temporary funding bill, Republican House Speaker will have to decide whether to present that plan to the House or to forge ahead with his own process, which has so far produced nothing to avert a government shutdown. Mr. Schumer today called on Mr. McCarthy to follow the Senate's lead. Bipartisan, bipartisan, bipartisan. It's the only way to avoid a shutdown, Mr. Schumer told reporters today. Mr. McCarthy tried to pass a continuing resolution before H.R. 5525, which is the Continuing Appropriations and Border Security Enhancement Act, which was drafted by a coalition of Republican members of the House Freedom and Main Street caucuses. They introduced the bill about a week ago on September 17th, and Mr. McCarthy supported it. But he withdrew the bill on September 19th amid opposition from physical hawks in his own party. The measure would have funded the government through October 31st, but it also imposed an overall 8% cut in non-defense discretionary spending. The bill also incorporated nearly all of H.R. 2, which is a Secure Border Act of 2023, which was passed by the House but not considered by the Senate. Of course not. The Senate's not going to pass a Secure Border Act. Texas Governor Abbott put National Guard on the border. Texas Governor Abbott put law enforcement on the border, as well as Border Patrol on the border. And what happened? After the Army went out there and put razor wire on the border, Biden and his cronies sent Customs Border Protection to cut the razor wire to allow migrants to continue into the country. Right now, almost on a daily basis, 11,000 migrants, undocumented migrants, flow through the border on a daily basis. 11,000 people a day. So the Democrats don't want a secure border. Representative McCarthy's promised to introduce a continuing resolution tomorrow, likely a version of H.R. 5525. In a news conference 2 days ago, on September 26th, the Speaker emphasized the border crisis and portrayed the GOP proposal as a solution. However, he acknowledged that he didn't know if he even had the votes to pass a continuing resolution in the House. Again, there are representatives in the House of Representatives and there are senators over in the Senate that will not allow any more money to go over to Ukraine. Representative McCarthy faced a new challenge yesterday from both moderate and very conservative members of the Republican caucus. The Problem Solvers Caucus, which includes both Republicans and Democrats, released a plan to fund the government on a temporary basis and complete the appropriations process no later than January 11th next year. Representative Tim Burchett from Tennessee, a fiscal hardliner who has strenuously opposed continuing resolutions, as some senators and representatives do, he said he would vote against a continuing resolution even if it includes a provision to strengthen border security and border protection. Mr. Burchett also said he would consider supporting a vote to vacate Speaker McCarthy's position, were he to work with Democrats to pass a continuing resolution. So one of the representatives in the House would hold a vote to get rid of McCarthy if McCarthy even tried a continuing resolution involving both parties. Mr. Burchett and others have insisted that the House follow regular orders and consider spending bills one at a time, including debate and an opportunity to offer amendments to avoid being forced to approve large catch-all appropriations bills. He said, here we are, backed up to a shutdown, and we had the whole month of August. You know, it's funny. September 30th comes around this time every year, and yet the politicians don't even get started on worrying about a shutdown and the next year's budget until just days before it happens. Most House Republicans appear to be committed to Mr. McCarthy's leadership, and many acknowledge the frustration of members both in the House and the Senate, including Mr. Burchett, who have pushed for procedural changes during the appropriations process. People have concerns with continuing resolutions, both here in the House of Representatives, in Congress, and the Senate, and also all of us, because continuing resolutions only mean more tax money taken out of our paychecks every year. And frankly, I share that concern. I've seen it happen. I share that concern that the continuing resolutions are used as a crutch to enable irresponsible spending. Yet McCarthy and other senators and congressmen remain optimistic about bringing House Republicans and senators together to advance a conservative spending plan. He says, I do think there are members who opposed CRs in the past, who, if they see that we're going through a responsible and a conservative process, will understand that a stopgap funding measure could be helpful in the process. But meantime, we're still facing a government shutdown within the next 48 hours. I felt like this was something that we needed to discuss here, because it could affect each and every one of our families and our neighbors and our friends. So folks, if you're concerned, I would highly recommend that you folks also go and call your congressmen and senators and send them emails telling them to get off their proverbial butts and do something about it. Otherwise, nothing's going to change. And we could have a shutdown that will affect millions and millions of people, not just here in the United States, but abroad. Because we have seniors and we have other federal employees all around this globe that may not get another paycheck until the Senate and the House come together with the President and approve a resolution to this problem. Okay? This is important. Linda Covington is asking, maybe we can ask Ukraine for a loan. Right. Right. And that's after the president of Ukraine came here a few days ago asking us for more money, appearing before the House and the Senate, and of going to Biden and asking for more money. What gives? Jamie Wilkie says, I'm on SSI. I'm on Social Security. Some people are on SSI, Social Security, SDI. It's bad. It's bad. That's why I'm talking about it. This is an emergency, and this emergency faces each and every one of us. Okay? It's sad. It's very sad. Now, I want to talk about some earthquakes. We've had some good-sized, very large, and very strong earthquakes all around the globe. And if you let me here, we'll talk about some earthquakes. Then we're going to talk about the Pacific Northwest and what's going on. There's a lot going on. Let's start this commentary here about these earthquakes down here in the South Pacific. Today down here in Vanuatu, Luganville, Vanuatu, we had a very strong 6.1 earthquake. I think this was actually 6.5. We should know more about this probably, I would say, within the next 2 to 3 hours after we get off this program. I will keep you updated as to how strong this one was. Like I said, I think that it's probably a 6.5. A mid-range, very strong earthquake. It did not cause a tsunami. It did not cause a tsunami. Again, I want to reiterate what is going on here. Folks, this is an area of extreme earthquakes. We've seen it happen. We've seen 7s and we've even seen 8s down here in the South Pacific in the last 3 to 4 years. This is no joke. We have 7 different plates. 7 different plates subducting here in this lower southern Pacific and southwestern Pacific area. 7 plates, each subducting under the other down here. That is the biggest reason we have these earthquakes here. This was a very strong earthquake here in Vanuatu today. Going over here to the southern area of Fiji. This is a 4.4 moderate quake. However, this is a very deep earthquake. 348 miles deep. 348 miles deep. According to the calculations on the depth to magnitude conversion charts, this is going to mean we're going to have a 5.4 to 5.5 large earthquake hit this area again within the next 3 to 10 days. That earthquake could actually occur here in the South Pacific. It could go over here to South America, to Chile and Argentina, Easter Island area. It could go west into Australia, Vanuatu, the Solomon Islands, go over into Papua New Guinea and Indonesia. But we are going to have another large earthquake over here. Promised. Promised. This is a 5.0 earthquake in the Solomon Islands today. In the Solomon Islands. This is a fairly shallow quake of 32.6 miles deep. 32.6 miles deep here. Now, folks, this is not anywhere near a landmass. This large earthquake is nowhere near a landmass, but look where it's at. It's right here on the edge of the plate. It's right here on the edge of the plate. It is southwest of the Samoa Islands. Okay? It's about 230 miles from the Samoan Islands. If this had been closer, it could have affected the islands. Okay? But as it is, because both of these earthquakes are out in the ocean waters absorb the shock waves of these quakes. This one was 37 miles east of Luganville. 37 miles east of Luganville. No, it's not. It's west of Luganville. Okay? USGS can never get this right. This is out in the ocean. But because this earthquake was so strong, people on this island here probably felt this earthquake, or at least a good share of this earthquake. Okay? People who may live on this island felt this earthquake. Over here on this other side to the west, I don't think anybody felt this earthquake at all. Yes, people live in these islands here, but this was far enough away from this 6 that they probably did not even feel it. The only people feeling it would have been people here. Okay? But again, look where it's at. It's on the edge of the plate here. We go over to Papua New Guinea. This is a 4.5 magnitude earthquake here. Right beside it is a 5.7 near Kokopo in Papua New Guinea. We've seen 6.5s and 7s here in Kokopo, Papua New Guinea. Look where it's at. Okay? It's out in the ocean, nowhere near these islands here. They say it's 71 miles southeast of Kokopo. For the majority part, the ocean waters here absorb the shock waves of this quake. If anybody felt it on the islands here in Papua New Guinea, they did not feel the full brunt of this earthquake. They probably did feel some minor shaking, but nowhere near a 5.7 earthquake. This was 30.4 miles deep. This aftershock was 6.2 miles deep, 10 kilometers deep. Okay? We go further west. This is also in Papua New Guinea. This is a large 5.2 earthquake. Okay? This occurred at 3:43 p.m. Eastern Time. This 5.7 over here, this happened at 3:21. So this 5.7 happened first, and then this came along a little bit later, about a half hour later. A 5.7 and a 5.2 earthquake in Papua New Guinea, and this one happened on land right there in Papua New Guinea within a half hour of each other this afternoon. Okay? Again, this 5.2 could be a very dangerous earthquake, especially to people in this area. They're not rich. They do not have homes like most of us do. Okay? A large earthquake like this can reduce their homes to rubble. Literally. Literally. Now, I don't see any settlements in this area. The further away from this earthquake they are, the better off they are. Okay? It says 32 miles northwest of Kandrian, Papua New Guinea. Okay, we can go down here. This is a settlement. Okay? These people felt something. But like I said, they don't have homes and houses and buildings like we do. Something may have happened there, and they no longer have those luxuries that they did have. By luxuries, no matter what they have, it's not as good enough as here in the United States. Okay? It's sad. It's sad. But again, this is right along the tectonic plate here. You can see it. That's why these earthquakes happened. Going further west, this is in the Valdese. This is also a 5.0 earthquake. A 5.0 earthquake right smack dab on top of the earthquake fault. Right on top of the plate here. That's a 5.0, 107 miles deep. Fairly shallow. This one is a 4.6. This is 95 miles deep. Okay? It's out in the ocean. I don't believe anybody felt those earthquakes in the Valdese Sea today. Over here further north, this is also 5.0. It's interesting how this one is 5.7 miles deep, about 8 to 9 kilometers deep. Okay? This one is still out in the ocean. This is north of this island here. I don't believe anybody on this island may have been close enough to feel this earthquake. Okay? I don't see any real settlements here at all. It's far enough out in the ocean where the ocean waters literally absorb most of the shock wave anyway. They got lucky. They got lucky. We go north over to the north end of Mindanao Island, Philippines, right here. Again, this is another 5.0 earthquake. Okay? Out in the ocean, just off the northeast side of Mindanao Island, Philippines. This is another good thing. Okay? A large earthquake not hitting a landmass is populated. Going north, still in the Philippines, this is still on the edge of the plate here. Alugan, Philippines. This is a moderate 4.7 earthquake. 6.2 miles deep. 10 kilometers deep. Okay? Out in the ocean. Now, let's back out here. I want to show you this. We have an earthquake here that's reported. Woohoo! They report one earthquake out of about 200 or 300 that have hit all over this area. From the Middle East all over Europe. They're reporting one earthquake, a 4.6 earthquake. This is near Dupage. Dijibouti. Djibouti, they say here. This is in Northeast Africa. This is also a 4.6 moderate quake. Okay? Also 6.1 miles deep. 10 kilometers deep. But why are they not reporting all the other earthquakes here in Europe or the Middle East? Because they don't believe they have to. Okay? The only other earthquake here is in the Atlantic Ocean, in the central mid-Atlantic. This is also another 5.0 large earthquake. Okay? Right here in the center of the Atlantic. This is also going to move north. Okay? 6.2 miles deep, it's going to move north. All of these earthquakes in the mid-Atlantic move north. Okay? Let's go back here to the Ring of Fire. The Ring of Fire. Okay? Let's go up here. Japan. Okay? Before I go any further, these earthquakes that we're showing you are only a small example of the number of earthquakes that actually occurred here. Okay? Because USGS doesn't want anybody to know what happened. They only report the earthquakes that they want to share about. This was over on the western side of Japan, in the Sea of Japan here. This area is populated. This area is populated. This is a 4.5 moderate quake. In Japan, 6.2 miles deep, 10 kilometers deep. These people felt it. Moderate earthquakes tend to knock pictures and things off of walls. They tend to topple books and trinkets on shelves. They rattle dishes and plates and glasses in people's kitchens. Okay? This could have been worse. About a month ago, they had a 5.2 here. that was worse. Okay? But today it's just a 4.5 today. Okay? 4.5 today, 4.5 at about 10:30 a.m. this morning. Okay? It's not the only earthquake here. Over here in the Kuril Islands, this is another 5.8. A 5.8 large earthquake. In the Kuril Islands, nobody was even around. This is out in the ocean, but again, it's on the edge of the plate here. It's on a huge earthquake trench here. A fault. A large 5.8 earthquake. All of these earthquakes are moving north. All these earthquakes that we've been talking about here are moving east, north, and possibly even south. However, this earthquake over here in the Kuril Islands, it's moving north. I fully expect either the same size earthquake or slightly less of an earthquake over here in the Kamchatka Peninsula area. Then that earthquake is going to make its notice known over here in the Aleutian Islands. That happens. That happens. We've already had some 5s here in the last week and a half. Over here in Adak, Alaska. Adak, Alaska. All these are tiny tremors. 1.0 tremor at this volcano here. A 1.0 tremor 4 miles down inside this volcano. Okay? We go over here. This is a 0.9 1.0 tremor. Also right next to a volcano. Okay? Right over here. This is in the ocean waters just north of this volcano. This is a 0.7 microquake. Okay? Over here. This is a 1.1 near Perryville, Alaska. Perryville, Alaska. Why does that sound familiar? Because, folks, just about 8 months ago, we had a 6.5 here off the coast of Perryville and Sandpoint, Alaska. Perryville had a small 2-foot tsunami here, as well as Sandpoint, Alaska. Today, 1.1 tremor here. Right next to it over here to the north, Chignik, Alaska, 1.2 tremor here. Okay? And then you can see some minor tremors up here in the Cook Inlet. The Cook Inlet. This is a 1.9 2.0 earthquake. This is over here. It's a 1.7 near Akiok. A-K-H-I-O-K. Akiok, Alaska. Okay? And you can see these other earthquakes here. Going over to Old Ililama Volcano, look at the swarms of earthquakes again. I'm not going to show you each and every one, but there's swarms of them here. This is a 1.1. This is a minus 0.3, which is above sea level on the volcano. Above sea level on the volcano. It's almost a mile deep. That shows you how tall this volcano is. Okay? Over here to the north, Karluk, Alaska, minus 0.3. This is a 1.6. All these are at the volcano. Over here to the east, this is a 0.2 here. Okay? We go northwest. This is Kokahuk, Alaska. This is a 2.0 earthquake. Okay? We go north in the inlet here, the Cook Inlet here. This is a 2.5 earthquake. So we have seismic energy moving up through the Cook Inlet here. Over here, Pedro Bay, it's at 2.1. What is just north and west of Pedro Bay? Mount Redoubt, another volcano right there. Okay? And yes, we have swarms of earthquakes around the volcano. Here is a minus 0.5 in the mountain. This is a supposedly a surface quake, but again, I'm going to question it being a 0.0 surface quake because it's 1.5 miles deep. There's no way it could be a surface quake. Okay? Now over here is a red mark. This red dot signifies an earthquake that just happened. This is a 1.4 earthquake over here in the Cook Inlet, 24 miles west of Californsky, Alaska. Isn't that interesting? Over here to the right, Ridgway, Alaska. This is a 3.0 earthquake. This is a 1.1. Okay? We go north. Susitna, Alaska. This is a 2.2 minor earthquake. And as you can see, there are more tremors and earthquakes all over here. Going up into Denali National Park. What do we have here? Mount McKinley. Just over here on the northwest flank of Mount McKinley, we have a 1.9 2.0 earthquake. Right next to it, another earthquake just happened. It's a 1.4 tremor. Just barely happened there. Now I'm going to pan out here. Over here in central Alaska, Rivers, Alaska, 1.2. I go just a little bit north and west. This is a 1.3. We're calling this northern Alaska. It's central Alaska. Let's go to northern Alaska, guys. Right up here. This is Katavik, Alaska. We have a 3.3 small earthquake up here in Katavik, Alaska. This is just south of the North Shore drilling area here. A 3.3 magnitude earthquake here today. Okay, let's go south. Okay, I'm going to talk here about another earthquake, a tremor down here near Sitka, Alaska. Why is this important? Why do you think these earthquakes are important here? Can you say volcano? Mount Sitka and Edgecombe volcanoes are over here. This is a 0.7 west of Sitka, Alaska. This is a 0.5 microquake. This is a 1.6 tremor. Again, we have two volcanoes over here in this area. And yes, they are having tremors and microquakes hitting these volcanoes. Just so you know. Just so you know. I'm looking out my window to the east, and guess what I'm seeing? I'm seeing a full moon here. I'm seeing a full moon here. You can see it out here. That tiny white dot outside my window here. A tiny white dot outside our window here. There we have the moon, a full moon. Who would have thunk? A full moon tonight. Yes, I knew that full moon was going to happen. I knew that full moon was going to happen, no problem. Let me fix this here. Okay, now we're together again. Woo! I wanted you to see that full moon tonight. Space Force House says the moon seems off. It does seem a bit off. Okay, it's supposed to be a blue moon. It's supposed to be a blue moon tonight. We just had an earthquake that happened here. Over here in Alaska, near Valdese, Alaska. It says Glacier View, Alaska. This was a 3.1 earthquake that just occurred just moments ago. Glacier View, Alaska, just north of Valdese, Alaska here. A 3.1 earthquake. Okay? Awaken says they've been perpetually rainy and cloud covered for 2 weeks. So great to see the moon, yeah. Ray Spurs is off the planet. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And in some cases I wish I was off the planet. Okay? True. They're not showing any other earthquakes over here near Queen Charlotte Island or Vancouver, British Columbia. But there are. The USGS is too stupid to show it. They show earthquakes in a lot of other places. Why not show these? They're closest to the United States, closer to Alaska, closer to the Pacific Northwest, where we are having earthquakes. Okay? Now, the reason I want to show you this is just 10 miles southeast of Glacier Peak, a volcano. It's not 10 miles southeast. This is at the volcano. This is a 1.5 tremor at the volcano today. And yet, they're saying it's 10 miles southeast. It's not southeast. It's over on the southwest side of Glacier Peak. Again, USGS, pick it up. You can't even get the location of a tremor at a volcano right. It's at Glacier Peak. You put it southeast of Glacier Peak, it's not. It's on the southwest flank of Glacier Peak. Okay? Now I'm going to show you some earthquakes here before we get into show you the seismos. You're going to be surprised by some of these seismos here. This is a 0.5 at Mount Rainier. USGS is saying, oh, it's 14 miles east-northeast of Ashford. It's at Mount Rainier, the volcano. To the east, this is a 1.4 tremor near Cliffdale, Washington. Cliffdale, Washington. This is a 0.9 1.0 tremor as well. Okay? Cliffdale, Washington. This is just east of Mount Rainier. We drop down to Mount St. Helens. Good old Mount St. Helens. This earthquake is down inside the volcano. They say this is a surface quake. There's no way in heck it could be a surface quake. No way. This is 2.3 miles deep inside the volcano. It's not a surface quake. Okay? This quake right here, it's a 0.2 microquake at Mount St. Helens. USGS says it's 23 miles northeast of Amboy, Washington. It's not. It's at the volcano. You can see that. Okay? This volcano just east of Mount St. Helens, this is Mount Adams. They're not showing us anything here. They never do. South of there, guess what? Guess what we have here? USGS is reporting this as a 0.5 microquake at the Washington-Oregon border. Folks, where's this earthquake? Where is this earthquake? It's out Mount Hood. It's not at the Washington-Oregon border. It's south of the border at a volcano. They still can't get this right. It's 1.3 miles down inside of Mount Hood. What kind of crap are they doing here? Okay? This one here, Sweet Home, Oregon. Sweet Home, Oregon. USGS is calling this an explosion. Explosion out here in the forest of Oregon. 2.0 explosion. A half a mile deep. Sorry guys, USGS, you're off your rocker. Unless this is a spontaneous combustus carnivorous, an exploding tree. Spontaneous combustus carnivorous, an exploding tree. Carl Smith said it could be an intern. No, this happens too often. This happens too often. This is not an intern. It's not. These people just do not want anybody to realize what is going on. Why? Let me repeat this so you might know better what's going on. Elizabeth is saying in the chat, Mary Greeley said a while back, USGS has been doing this with orientation. Yeah, they have. A lot. All the time. Every day for years now. Years and years. This was an agency that I used to look up to, guys. This was an agency that I used to look up to. I admired them until I started my own investigation, finding out what's going on. And all of a sudden I lost my respect for the agency in general. It's not the everyday person that works for USGS. I respect them. They do their job and they go home. It is the messengers here. It is management. It is completely management. Let me explain to you why. Okay? Why do you think they don't want anybody to know what's going on? And it doesn't matter whether it's at the volcanoes or whether it's on shore or in a big town or a small town. Why do you think they don't want you to know where the earthquakes are or how strong they are? Let me tell you, it's the politicians. They're telling the USGS managers don't say anything what's going on. Why? Because, folks, if the public knew exactly what was going on, they would not stick around. They would not stick around. These people would get up and move. They would move away from the shorelines where we know we're going to have a Cascadia megathrust earthquake. We know that. That's going to do a lot of damage again. As if the people in Seattle, Snoqualmie, and various other towns and cities around Seattle, they all know. Because we've had 6.5s and 6.9 earthquakes there in the past 30 to 40 years. Very damaging earthquakes. And that's only preparatory to a Cascadia megathrust earthquake. We're going to have a big, huge earthquake coming very soon. And they could have some smaller ones, smaller damaging quakes coming sooner than that. Let's get into the facts. If you lived in a town here that was susceptible to very strong earthquakes that could possibly hurt or kill your family, would you stay or would you leave? naturally you would try to find some place that's safer for you and your family. You would leave the town. And leaving the town, who's going to be paying taxes in the town? If you leave the town, what other stores and businesses are going to survive if you leave the town and are not buying product from those businesses that are there? And those businesses are not going to be there because they're not getting paid by you to be there. So they're not going to be there either. All of a sudden there's no tax base. So the city and or the town will no longer exist because they can't pay their bills. Who's going to repair the roads? How are they going to pay the road, repair the roads when there's no crews and no money to do it? How are the stoplights and the street lights going to stay on when there's no money to do it? If there's no money to pay anybody there, there's not going to be a town council. There's not going to be a city council. There's not going to be a representative from the Senate or the Congress there. Can you see what I'm talking about? These highfalutin politicians are telling the United States Geological Survey, don't tell anybody what's going on, because people will leave. People will leave. The tax base will dry up. The politicians will be without jobs. Politicians are going to be without jobs. So why would they let USGS do the job? Heaven's sakes, no. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. Carl Smith says, I left my home state January 2023. I left what I considered my home state of California. Now, I was not born there, but I left there April 2000. Over 23 and a half years ago, I left San Diego. I lived there for 27 and a half years. I haven't been there since. There's a reason that I'm not there. High taxes, stupid government people, and earthquakes. I know what's going to happen there. I visited back there during the disaster drill in April 2010. And what happened? During the disaster drill, we had to go real world because there was a 7.1 earthquake just east of us in the Imperial County at the border. It shook major tall buildings all over San Diego. Glass broke out of windows and crashed on the sidewalks at the street level. Fortunately, nobody got hurt. Skyscrapers were moving all over the place. There were power outages. There was damage all over San Diego County, and even more damage over in Imperial County, where we talked about the Imperial County last night. Remember that? Holtville, where the Salton Sea Desert Research Station is. The seismograph is there. We showed it to you last night. People do not stay where there's going to be large earthquakes. They don't stay where there's going to be large, devastating earthquakes. Besides that, because of the politicians in California, California is being left high and dry. Yes, there's tons of people there still, but thousands of people are bailing out of California. People are bailing out of Oregon. People are bailing out of Washington. One of my best friends used to be a cop over near Seattle in Vancouver. He left and went to Idaho because of crap that's happening there. One, it's safer there. Two, it's safer there because he doesn't have to have rocks thrown at him and gang members trying to stab him and shoot him. There's a reason. Okay? There's a reason. That's why I keep trying to tell you what's going on. You deserve to know. What I just showed you is not an explosion. It's a 2.0 earthquake here near Sweet Home, Oregon. These idiots at the U.S. Geological Survey ought to be thrown out of their jobs. They're not telling the truth. People are going to get killed because they are not telling them the truth. Plain and simple. Plain and simple here. Over here in West Texas, we have a swarm of earthquakes here as we normally do. This is oil and gas, guys. Oil and gas quakes. That is a 2.9 earthquake I highlighted. Guess what? There's a 2.3 here. A 2.3. And another one here behind that. This is a 3.1. Oil and gas pumping operations cause these earthquakes. Okay? To cause these earthquakes. Southern Texas. Here's another 3.0 earthquake in Falls City, Texas. We've had earthquakes here at Falls City before. Oil and gas. Almost directly north up here in Oklahoma. This is a 2.1. Velma, Oklahoma. Oil and gas. This is a 1.4 near Dibble, Oklahoma. Oil and gas. This one here, they're saying it's a quarry blast 1 mile south of Hobart, Oklahoma. 1 mile south of Hobart, Oklahoma. A quarry blast. Nowhere near a quarry. Sorry. Nowhere near a quarry. There's a quarry over here, some 3 or 4 miles away, but this is not a quarry blast. Again, this is deep inside the earth. It's not a quarry blast. They say it's 1 mile southwest of Hobart, Oklahoma. Really? Really? It's out here in the Tules. Okay? USGS can't be trusted. They can't be trusted. Okay? Over here in Ohio. Okay? Why am I showing you this? Because we've had earthquakes here before. This is near Madison, Ohio. It's a 1.7 tremor. What do we have here? We have Lake Erie here, don't we? Lake Erie. Well, guess what? Look where this earthquake is. There's an earthquake fault right here. There's also an earthquake fault that runs along the coast of this Lake Erie right here. Also, in case you didn't know, guess what else is happening here? There are salt mines down here. There are salt mines down here. We've had earthquakes here all the time lately. The last 2 or 3 years, we probably had a dozen earthquakes because of the salt mines and the earthquake faults here. That's why this 1.7 got hit here today. Okay? That's what's going on. Okay, now I've shown you earthquakes except over here in Montana area. Okay? This one is near Townsend, Montana. They're saying this is a quarry blast. Interesting. Yes, there is a quarry here. But again, this is in the mountains south and west of that quarry. It's also 1.2 miles deep. This is not a quarry blast. That's not a quarry blast either. South of there, this is Pony, Montana. Pony, Montana, 2.1 miles deep, 0.7 microquake. East of there, Springdale, Montana. This is a 1.5 tremor. This is 9.3 miles deep. This is down in the Yellowstone caldera. Okay? Down below the caldera. What is here? Magma down here. Magma. The magma chamber of the Yellowstone volcano is 11 Grand Canyons in size. 11 Grand Canyons in size. This is down in the beneath the caldera here. Okay, that's a 1.5. This here is Mammoth, Wyoming. Mammoth, Wyoming. Guys, there's geysers here. It's also over here in the Yellowstone area. Mammoth here is a geyser basin. Mammoth is a geyser basin. This is 0.1 microquake here. Okay? Mammoth, Wyoming. Right there. This is Yellowstone Lake. Do you see any earthquakes today around Yellowstone Lake? There are. They're just not telling us about it. Sad. They're not even telling us about it. One day soon I'm going to show you earthquakes all over Idaho and Montana and Wyoming. Because I can. USGS won't. Okay, let's leave the USGS map. I think we're done with it tonight. Let's go over and show you what exactly is going on. Do you want to know what's going on, guys? Do you really want to know what's happening over in the Pacific Northwest? We're going to explore that. I hope you're ready for it. I hope you're ready. Let's go over to Mount Baker. I want to show you what is going on at Mount Baker. Okay, today I pulled a bunch of seismos for you. I spent some time around Mount Baker earlier today. Okay? This is Mount Baker. This is the main seismogram from Mount Baker. Let me make this just a tiny bit smaller and enlarge it here for you. Okay? This is the main seismogram. MBW. MBW-EHZ. Okay? This is the only seismograph recording this. It's a single station seismograph. Okay, look up at the top of this. Okay, this was at 5 p.m. yesterday. There was an event, a seismic event just at 5 p.m. You don't see the top of it because the top of it would have been off the chart on yesterday's chart. Okay? This was probably, I want to say, a 2.8, 2.9, 3.0 earthquake. Either 2.8, 2.9, or 3.0 earthquake. I'm judging that by the length of this event here. Okay? Look at these others. You see some minor earthquakes and this. Over here on the left. This happened last night. What do we have last night? Just after 11:15 p.m. You see 23 there? 2300. What do we have? Nothing. 2300 is 11 p.m. last night. Just after that, what do we have? We have a line here, don't we? We have a line with a curly Q. What do you think happened there? Folks, they turned off the seismograph. In this particular case, they turned off the seismograph. That line pointing down is a sign that that seismograph was turned off. Then they turned it on. Okay? Then they turned it on. Further down here, this is later this morning. Okay? You're seeing more signatures, more long signatures with curly Qs on them. In this case, this is a sign that this volcano is steaming. These lines here with curly cues are the volcano steaming off. Steaming off. If there's a vertical line with a dot in the middle of it, it's an earthquake. In this particular case, this volcano is steaming. Okay? You can see it over here to the right as well, right here. 3 more steam signatures here at Mount Baker. Then over here, near the center right of this seismogram, this happened just after 12 noon. About 12:12 p.m. this afternoon. We had one of those hot magma episodes where you have a magma churn signal. A magma churn signal. Magma churn signals are typically 23 to 24 lines high. 23 to 24 lines high, guys. How many lines does this magma churn signal encompass? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines. This is less than 25% of real world. Less than 25% of real world, which means those steam lines should be 4 to 5 times as long as they are. 4 or 5 times as long as they are. What are those lines going out to the right of that magma churn signal? Those are also steam lines. Steam signatures. Steam signatures. This seismogram was given to us by the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network. Okay? The PNSN. They do the same thing the USGS does. They're not honest with anything at all. I have found seismograms at Mount Baker non-existent. Non-existent seismograms because they don't want people to know what's going on at Mount Baker. Let's look at another one. This is a ski resort at Mount Baker. Shuckson. This seismograph is at the ski resort. Shuckson. This is on the north side of Mount Baker. Okay? Look what we have here. Up at the top, very little. You see some lines, some horizontal lines here to the right. That is magma. Okay? That is magma. These lines here are 15 minutes long. Each horizontal line here is 15 minutes long. Some lines are very thin and others are thicker. Okay? That is magma pulse signals. Magma pulse signals. P-U-L-S-E. The magma is stronger at times, and sometimes it's less strong. Okay? You're seeing magma pulse signals here. Okay? Now, I'm going to enlarge this here, and I'm going to pull it over to the right here. Over here on the left-hand side last night, on the blue line. You see 22 over on the left? That is 10 p.m. last night. On the blue line, that's 10:30 on the left-hand side. So just after 10:30 last night, we have what? Another steam signature. A very small steam signature, guys. That's what happened. You see some other tremors here. The magma coming into the volcano is coming in under pressure. And when you see these tiny lines on the horizontal lines, these tiny vertical lines over the horizontal lines, that is rock fracturing by the magma. coming into the volcano. Magma coming in under pressure, fracturing the rock, causing the earth to move. Rock fracturing. That's what you're seeing here. Okay? This morning, look what happens after 7 a.m. this morning. You see 07 over on the left-hand side. Look what happens after 7 a.m. this morning. We start getting more tremors. We start getting more earthquakes. Judging from the size of that steam signal, guys, guess what? This seismograph was also turned very far down. It's not showing us the correct size of these signatures. These are larger earthquakes. That black earthquake in the center bottom of your screen there, probably a 2.0 minor earthquake. Right here, it's probably showing nothing but a 1.6, but it's larger than that. Okay? Going over here to the bottom right-hand side. Okay? This is on the black line after 11 a.m. this morning. So this far over on the right. Now we are talking about 11:13, 11:14 this morning. We see these vertical lines here. These smaller vertical lines are tremors of a building earthquake. Tremors of a building earthquake. These longer lines here, if we just took them at face value, we'd have a 2.1, 2.2 minor earthquake. But I believe this seismograph has been turned way down. This is probably closer to a 2.9, 3.0 earthquake here at Mount Baker. Yes, folks, it's what it is. On the USGS map, you saw Glacier Peak. We're going to show you what happened in Glacier Peak in just a few minutes. Okay? This is still Mount Baker up just south of the Canadian border. Mount Baker here in Washington, just south of the Canadian border. I've got more to show you. Okay? Folks, I am going to show you magma moving beneath Mount Baker. These VLF lines are what happens when magma comes into the volcano. The magma emits a very low frequency radio wave. They're called the VLF radio waves, very low frequency. Look how much volcanic magma is coming into this volcano. Look how much magma is coming into this volcano. Mount Baker is very active, but you don't see it on the other seismograms because they don't want you to know it. You have to go searching for the data. I found the data. Okay? These wavy lines are indicative of a lot of magma coming into this magma chamber. And they are not reducing the size of this seismogram, but they reduce the size of the others because the others showed earthquakes and tremors. Okay? But you're seeing the magma coming into the magma chamber here. Okay? That's Mount Baker. Let's drop down to Glacier Peak for kicks and giggles, just to save some time. It's already 8:50 p.m. Eastern Time here. Let's go over to Glacier Peak here. This is Glacier Peak. So far, they only have one seismograph at Glacier Peak. They're supposed to be putting in 5 more. Late last year, they told us that they had approval and were buying 5 more seismographs at about $5,000 a piece. They're supposed to be putting them up here on this volcano. But the reason they haven't put seismographs up here in the past is because of the environmental coalition there. The environmental people don't want these seismographs to be put up because there's an animal up there that might be disturbed by these seismographs being up there on the mountain. The marmots. Because scientists would have to come up here to take a look at the seismographs at least once a year. So the environmentalists did not want these seismographs to go up. I'm hoping that they'll still go up. Okay? But look at this. There's only one seismograph there, and that's why we're only seeing one seismogram here. Okay? Look at all these lines here. Like I said, the vertical lines with dots in the middle of them, those are indicative of seismic energy. Earthquakes and tremors. The smaller the lines, the smaller the vertical lines, those are tremors. The larger ones are 2.0 earthquakes or larger. Okay? And you can see these earthquakes hitting here. Some of these earthquakes are thicker. Blobs of magma coming into the magma chamber cause earthquakes and rock fracturing. That's what we're seeing here. That's what we're seeing here. Then, after 10 a.m. this morning, we're seeing another magma churn signal. Okay? This one is interesting. It's very interesting. Like I said, the normal magma churn signals are 23 to 24 lines high. This one is 9 or 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Actually, it's more than that. Let me count it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 lines high. This is 50%. This seismograph that's monitoring this is turned up to 50% of real world. 50% of real world. So if you double the size of these earthquakes here that are, you see as just tremors, all of a sudden if you double it, these are at least 1.9 tremors to 2.0 earthquakes. And these smaller lines here, double it. Double it. So we may have even seen larger earthquakes here. Bunches of tremors, yeah. On the USGS map, they said there was a 1.7 tremor. There most assuredly was. There was 2 of them. 2 of them here today. And probably a lot of others here as well, as you can see here. Tremors and earthquakes here at Glacier Peak. This volcano is very active. It's very active. Let's drop down to Mount Rainier now. Good old Mount Rainier. Mount Rainier is very active today. It's always active. Always active. Let's look at Mount Rainier right now. This is Emerald Ridge. This is a Pacific Northwest Seismic Network seismogram. Look what we're seeing here. We don't often see a PNSN seismogram from this area because they doctor it. I haven't shown a seismogram from Emerald Ridge here from the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network for a long time. So now they're giving out the information. They're displaying the information. What do we have here? Up at the top, you see these wavy lines here. It's not just wavy lines. It's not BLF waves. Okay? We are actually seeing seismic signals. Mount Rainier is very busy. We're seeing a bunch of tremors here. And in amongst the tremors, we're having larger earthquakes. Look at the top left here. please look at the top left. On the red line there. That red line, folks, is probably a 2.5 minor earthquake. At least a 2.5 minor earthquake. And there may also be some 2.0s there as well. Further to the left, okay, you can see some tremors and or minor 2.0 earthquakes happening. That line is thick, meaning that earthquake shook for a period of time, 5 to 10 seconds. That's an awful lot of shaking. This red line, the same thing. About 5 or 10 seconds worth of shaking. At least a 2.2, 2.3 earthquake, minor earthquake. Look at the rest of this. There's plenty of tremors going on, guys. That's what we're seeing. Okay, you can see these larger events happen here. Over on the right hand side, you can see those blue events happen. Okay, it looks to be about a 1.5 tremor there. And off to the right, you see that secondary wave off to the right of that earthquake. Guess what? That's indicative that this was a bit larger earthquake than what they're showing here. So this seismograph is probably only showing maybe 20% of real world. Okay? Look at the bottom of this seismograph. Look at the waves here. Look at the seismic waves. They reach down here. Okay? They're reaching down. This is indicative of continuing tremors. Continuing tremors, not stopping. Not stopping. Yes, we have some earthquakes here, but this mountain is shaking. Mount Rainier is shaking here, guys. No doubt in my mind, Mount Rainier is shaking here. Let's take a look at a couple of others here as well. This time I'm going, excuse me, this time I'm going over to, well, just prior to that, let's go back over here to another seismogram from the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network. This is Camp Sherman. This is Camp Sherman. Again, look at the vertical lines here. These vertical lines with dots in the middle of them are earthquakes. The longer lines here are indicative of possibly a 3.0 small quake. A 3.0 small quake. These ones that are about an inch long, they're a 2.2 earthquake. A 2.2 earthquake. Let's go over here into the center of this seismogram. You're seeing a fairly long earthquake. Okay, it's about a 2.8, 2.9 earthquake. Off to the left of there is probably a 1.8 magnitude tremor. What do we have with this magma churn signal here? Okay, this happened at about 4:11 a.m. this morning. I'm talking about this magma churn signal here. This is important. How many lines is this magma churn signal? Like I said, the magma churn signals are indicative of telling us how strong this seismogram is or not. How strong these earthquakes are. This one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines high. This is about 70% of real world. The seismograph is turned down to about 70% of real world. So you're seeing tremors, you're seeing earthquakes. You're seeing tremors and earthquakes, guys. And they're a bit larger than what they're showing us here at Mount Rainier. Okay, Mount Rainier, they said there was a 1.2 tremor and a microquake. Well, guess what? I agree there's some microquakes here, but there's a lot more than a 1.5, 1.4 tremor. I'm showing you probably close to a 3.0 earthquake here. Okay? If it's not a 3.0, it's a 2.8, 2.9 minor earthquake, at least. Okay? That's Mount Rainier. Let me show you a seismogram from the USGS. Okay? This is Camp Muir. Look at this. This is Camp Muir. Look at the magma coming into this volcano here. The seismogram starts off at 10 p.m. last night. Look at all the magma. Look at these thick lines here. Each line here represents 15 minutes worth of time. Look at the magma pouring into this volcano. And with the magma coming into the volcano, you're seeing vertical lines here. Some of these vertical lines are very large here. Okay? An inch or longer, or length. An inch or long in length. And they're wide. There's magma pouring into this volcano. It's causing rock fracturing. That's what we're seeing here. These vertical lines are showing us that the earth has moved. There's earthquakes and tremors here. Okay? Let's look over here at the top left-hand side. Look at that dark blue line there. What do we have here? This dark blue line was generated after about 1:30 a.m. this morning. 1:30 a.m. this morning. What is the issue here? How strong is that earthquake? Just by judging the size of that earthquake without figuring out any other factors here, this would be a 2.9, 3.0 earthquake. And then judging off to the right side of that earthquake, a secondary wave. That secondary wave is telling me that this is a much larger earthquake than they're saying it is. Folks, this seismogram is not showing real world. This is probably 50% of real world. Look at these other earthquakes here. I don't have a magma churn signal here to tell me if the machine was turned up or down enough, to what extent it was turned up or down. But I'm telling you, just judging by what we're seeing here all day long, from 10 last night to this evening, this tells me that there's a lot of magma coming into Mount Rainier, and we're having earthquakes as a result of it. Not just tremors or microquakes. These are full-blown earthquakes. Full-blown earthquakes. Some of them 2.3, 2.4. That one was close to a 3.0, I believe. And there's other tremors and earthquakes hitting here as well. Again, USGS is still not telling us the truth about what's really happening here, even at this volcano. They're only reporting a tremor and a microquake at Mount Rainier on their map. The seismogram tells us different. The seismogram tells us different. Because of time, I'm going to jump down to Mount St. Helens now. This is Sugar Bowl Mount St. Helens. Look how active Mount St. Helens is. Look at that. Mount St. Helens is very active. Look at all the magma coming into Mount St. Helens last night as well. It calmed down during the night. After 2:45 last night, it calmed down. We still have magma coming into the magma chamber, but it's not as it was late last night. Then, what happens here this morning? At about 8:04 a.m. this morning, we have a 2.2 magnitude earthquake. A 2.2 magnitude earthquake at Mount St. Helens. What did the USGS tell us happened at Mount St. Helens today? Certainly not a 2.2 earthquake. Okay? And then we have what looks to be a 1.5, 1.6 tremor. But off to the right-hand side of it, we have a secondary wave here. That secondary wave tells us that this earthquake was larger than it is showing it to be. Probably a 2.0 earthquake at least. This afternoon, after 12 noon, look at all this magma coming into this magma chamber at Mount St. Helens. That's a lot of magma. And this evening, look what's happening here this evening. This is very significant because Mount St. Helens is getting ready to erupt again. Mount St. Helens is getting ready to erupt again. Let me show you one other seismogram from Mount St. Helens. It's called September lobe. Let me show you September lobe here. September lobe, guys, is a very interesting seismogram. This is also VOF. Remember the very low frequency waves I showed you up at Mount Baker? This is Mount St. Helens here. Look at this. Indeed, the other seismogram is showing a lot of activity, a lot of magma last night. Look at this one. This is saying the exact same thing. A lot of magma coming into Mount St. Helens last night. And yes, it did calm down. It picked up for a little bit early this morning, but then it calmed down again. This is what we're seeing at Mount St. Helens, guys. This verifies the other seismogram. This verifies everything the other seismogram told us. Let's go south. Let's go south to Mount Hood. Oh, I love Mount Hood. Look at this. This is Mount Hood, Lamberson Butte, on the east flank of Mount Hood. Look at this. Again, this is a lot of magma coming into the volcano here. Look at that. It's completely obliterating any white of the paper. It's completely covering it. Look at the red lines here. Those red lines are computer generated, telling the seismologist, hey, we have some earthquakes here. Hey, we need to pay attention to this. That's why those red lines are there. They're computer generated, telling the seismologist, you need to look at this. There's a lot of magma coming in to Mount Hood. This is Lamberson Butte. These lines here have been, the seismogram here recorded a lot of activity, didn't it? After the activity, they turned the seismograph down. They turned the seismograph down. How can we tell? Number one, look at the small activity here. Look at this small activity. In order for this activity to happen, there has to be some kind of magma forcing its way through the magma chamber, causing some rock fracturing. So they turned down the seismograph where we're not seeing it. Down below this, we see a little bit more. Enough magma that's making its way through the turn down to make its face known here. Yes, there's still magma coming into this volcano. They're still not showing it. They've turned the seismograph down. Way, way down. Okay? I want to show you that because it shows us exactly what is happening. Okay? We've seen this happen before. Okay? Look at Timberline. Timberline is over on the southern lower side of Mount Hood. Okay? Look what happened last night. We have some activity, don't we? Magma coming into the magma chamber here. Okay? But this is turned down. It's turned down. Look at this lump of magma coming into the magma chamber last night. Okay? This happened at about 12, I want to say 12:08, 12:09 a.m. this morning. Again, all of a sudden we just have what appears to be a chunk of magma coming in. Sorry, folks. Look at the line closely. Looking at it closely, you see some vertical lines there. Earthquakes, tremors. There's a lot of magma coming in here, and the magma, or the seismograph, has been turned way down. Seismograph has been turned way down. We're not seeing exactly what's happening here. It's not real world. If we multiplied it times 3 or 4 or 5 times, this would be a bigger deal. The lines would be thicker with magma, wouldn't they? And you'd be able to see the activity here. Look what happened today, this afternoon. Look at all this magma here. They turned the magma, or turned the machine back up. And you're seeing the magma coming in, pouring into Mount Hood. That is a lot of magma coming into this volcano. Mount Hood is very active. No, I did not pull the seismogram from Mount Hood showing the VOF. I probably should have. But this is enough to show that Mount Hood is very active. A lot of magma pouring into that volcano. Let's continue south. I just love this. I get the thrill of it. Okay? Let's go over to Newberry Volcano south of there. Again, this is in northern Oregon. Newberry Volcano. Look at this. Again, last night we have a bunch of magma coming into this volcano. This is the cinder cone at Newberry Volcano. Okay? Then they turn down the machine the rest of the day. The rest of the day they turn down the machine here at Newberry Volcano. Let's go further south to Sisters Volcano. Look at this. This is Sisters Volcano. Again, last night, look at the terrific amount of magma that's coming into this volcano. Not as much as Hood, not as much as Helen's, and a bit less than happened at Mount Rainier. But this is still a lot of magma coming in here at Sisters Volcano. Then, what happened here? We see a time period here today where the line completely disappeared and made the white go away. Magma poured into this volcano. This is just not one volcano though, guys. Sisters Volcano are 3 volcanoes basically just north of Central Oregon. This is a set of 3 volcanoes: Sisters North, Sisters Central, and Sisters South. 3 separate and distinct volcanoes being monitored by one seismograph. Look here. If this was just one volcano being monitored, this is a lot of magma pouring into this volcano this afternoon. just after 2 p.m. Just after 2 p.m. Almost 2 hours, just not 2 hours, almost a full hour of magma pouring into this volcano. And you still see, once the magma calmed down a little bit, you still see plenty of action, plenty of earthquakes and tremors because of the fracturing rock from the magma coming into the volcano. Sisters Volcano. I wanted to show you this because this is very real. I have not seen this much action at Sisters Volcano in about 3 years now. Yes, there was a time period about 2.5 years ago, well, actually 2 years ago, where they thought that Sisters Volcano was going to erupt. There was that much activity. But we have more magma coming into Sisters Volcano right here this afternoon than we had even when they thought Sisters Volcano was going to erupt. And it's, like I said, it's 3 volcanoes, not just one. Let's drop down to south central Oregon, to Crater Lake. Crater Lake is also very busy. Okay, look at this. This is Crater Lake, Cleetwood Cove. This is over on the northeast side of Crater Lake. I'm going to enlarge this for you. Look at the activity here. Look at the earthquakes. Look at these earthquakes. Okay? Some of these are 3.0 small earthquakes. Some of them are 2.8, 2.9. Multiple earthquakes here. Look at that. But they're still not showing the magma that's causing those earthquakes. What does that mean? The lines are very thin here. For those earthquakes to happen, the lines have to be thicker than that. This means that they've turned down this seismograph. This only means that they've turned down this seismograph. These are good sized earthquakes here hitting Crater Lake. And then all of a sudden, what do? After that immense activity, they turn the seismograph further down. Hardly anything is going on. You see the magma lines here, the horizontal lines. You see the magma coming into the volcano, but it's very thin. Folks, they turn down the seismograph to not show exactly what's going on here. They turned it down all day until later this afternoon. Look what happened now. Look what happened this evening. Look at all this magma this evening at Crater Lake. This is extraordinary. Again, I have not seen this kind of activity at Crater Lake before. This is a lot of activity at Crater Lake. Crater Lake is an alpine lake. It's a huge volcano. Crater Lake is a huge volcano, guys. Let me give you some history here to show you what exactly happened here today. Okay? Crater Lake is a huge volcano. The last eruptions at Crater Lake happened about 4,800 years ago. 4,800 years ago. It's interesting. Look at this. This is Wizard Island in Crater Lake. This, folks, is a summit of the volcano. The very summit of the volcano. The lake is covering the caldera of the volcano. The lake is covering the caldera of the volcano. Interesting, huh? This is also one of the deepest lakes in the United States. one of the deepest lakes in the United States. The last eruptions at Wizard Island here took place when the lake was about 80 meters lower than it is today, 260 feet lower than it is today. The last known eruption at Crater Lake occurred when a small lava dome erupted underwater on the east flank of the base of Wizard Island. The east flank of the base of Wizard Island, 4,800 years ago. Since that time, the volcano has remained quiet, allowing as much as 100 feet of sediment to accumulate on the lake bottom. 100 feet of sediment, 30 meters of sediment to accumulate on the lake bottom. This is again one of the deepest lakes in the United States. A volcano. A volcano, guys. Now, I'm not going to show you any more seismographs. I have a ton of them. I have Mount Shasta, I have Mount Lassen, I've got Mammoth Mountain, I've got Long Valley, I have down a seismogram over at Coastal Volcanoes, I've got another one at China Lake Ridgecrest. I will show those to you tomorrow. But I wanted to show these to you. We've been about 2.5 weeks since we've shown you a lot of activity in the Pacific Northwest. There's plenty of activity there. There's a ton of activity in the Pacific Northwest. I showed it to you tonight. You have the information tonight. No doubt you have all of the information tonight. Now, getting back to the real world now. What is going on? I want to show you a couple other slides here I picked up for you tonight. You will not be mandating to do anything. They cannot mandate anything to me or you. Apparently there's some confusion on our part about the relationship that we have with these evil people. They work for us. You are not their servant, nor are you their slave. We will not be talked down to. We will not be mandated to. I will not be forced to do anything against my will. You will not be forced to do anything against your will. You are an employee. It's not your place. They are an employee to us. The politicians do not run our lives. We should be running theirs. Signed, we the people. Signed, we the people. They will not be mandating anything to us. Okay? Let me show you another one. Don't let the noise of the world distract you from the voice of God. With everything else happening around us, don't let the noise of the world distract you from the voice of God. When the world puts you down, God will bring you up. When the world puts you down, God will raise you right back up. I promise you that. I promise you that. Brothers and sisters, this devotional now comes from Mark in the New Testament. But that ye may know that the Son of Man hath power on earth to forgive sins. He saith to the sick of the palsy, I say unto thee, arise and take up thy bed, and go thy way into thine house. And immediately he arose and took up the bed and went forth before them all, insomuch that they were amazed and glorified God, saying, We never saw it on this fashion. We never saw it on this fashion. Christ made miracles. Christ healed people in front of us. Christ healed people in front of us. Now, further over into the New Testament in Romans. Romans chapter 2, verse 5. But if our unrighteousness if our righteousness commend the righteousness of God, what shall we say? Is God unrighteous who taketh vengeance? I speak as a man. God forbid. For then how shall God judge the world? For if the truth of God hath more aboundeth through my lie unto his glory, why yet am I also judged as a sinner? And not rather as we be slanderously reported, as some affirm that we say, let us do evil that good may come. Whose damage or damnation is just? When? Then? Are we better than they? No, in no wise. We have been proved, both Jews and Gentiles, that they are all under sin, as it is written, there is none righteous, no, not one. We're talking about the evildoers here. There are no righteous in the evil world. In chapter 3, verse 27, where is boasting then? It is excluded. By what law? Of works? Nay, by the law of faith. Therefore we conclude that if a man is justified by faith without the deeds of the law, is he the God of the Jews only? Is he not also of the Gentiles? Yes, of the Gentiles also. God is God over all of us. Seeing it is one God which shall justify the circumcision of faith and the uncircumcision through faith, do we then make void the law through faith? God forbid. Yea, we establish the law. In Romans 4, verses 16 and 17, therefore it is of faith, that it might be by grace to the end of promise, might be sure to all the seed, not to that only which is of the law, but to that which is of the faith of Abraham, who is the father of us all. As it is written, I have made thee a father of many nations, before him whom he believed, even God who quickeneth the dead, and calleth these things which be not as though they were. Brothers and sisters, God made man in his own image. God made us and sent us out into the world to live by faith, to gain experiences, to prove to God who we were. Before we left heaven, we promised the Lord that we would obey his commandments. We promised God the Father and Jesus Christ that we would seek out Jesus Christ. We would try to become more like him. That is our mission here on the earth, to find out who Jesus Christ is and to become more like him and to make us a better world. Yes, we've talked about a lot of negativity tonight that is happening in our world, but we are better than that. We need to tell those people that work for us to get up off their duffs and do the job that we sent them there to do. And if they can't do it, we will replace them. We walk by faith. and we walk because the Lord God gave us strength. The Lord God made us men and women of virtue and of faith. Faith strong enough to make sure that we can do what we need to do. Folks, I have done a lot of soul searching. Yes, I have been exhibiting a lot of mannerisms of anger, and I apologize. But folks, we have got to turn our world around. We have got to live by faith. We have to live by works. We've got to do God's work here on this earth. It is mandatory for us to make sure it happens. To take back our cities, our towns, our countries, and take back our world. I love you. I want you to know without a shadow of a doubt, I know the Savior lives. He leads and guides us today. He leads and guides us today. I know that. We are children of Israel. We are children begotten of by God. Let's stand up for who we are. Let's stand in holy places. Let's make our wishes and the wishes of the Lord known. That is our mission. I know that to be true. None of us have been here for nothing but to feed our souls. That's why we came here tonight. That's why we've come together as a family here. Folks, I love each and every one of you. God loves you. Folks, find out for yourself if what I haven't said is true. Get down on your knees and ask God if the things I haven't said are true. You can find out for yourself. If you get down on your knees and pray with real intent, exercising faith in God, He will manifest the truth of it unto you through the power of the Holy Ghost. And through the power of the Holy Ghost, you will know the truth of all things. God be with you. God take care of you. God bless you and your families. The Lord loves you. If anything else happens here tonight, we'll be back here to tell you about it as soon as the information becomes available. Until then, guys, we will see you tomorrow night, same place, same bat station. Have a great night. We will see you around the corner. Good night, everybody. I love you very much.